presentation, I will pause. If you would reply any questions into your control panel, I will address them probably every 10 minutes or so in our presentation, and we'll get your answers back to you. Contact information. Control Solutions is located in Portland, Oregon area. The 800 number is your pipeline to contact us with questions, if you need a little nudge, if you had a problem. The loggers that you have a 2-year full warranty. If for some reason the manufacturer has, somehow you've got a defect, we'll go ahead and replace the logger. The calibration that you have with the logger is going to last for 2 years. And the back side of each of our loggers has a calibration sticker that identifies the equipment ID, when it was calibrated, and when it's due. If you need to send any of us an email, you could send it to myself at the bottom here, or contact us at sales@vscdataloggers.com. Each of the boxes that you have received has a warranty calibration registration card. This is the information that we could keep track of where our loggers are installed in the Arizona area. We will not share, distribute, or sell this information for any interested party. We're going to use this to notify you if there's any updates, or to notify you that your logger is going to be due for recalibration. So please take the time and send us that information. There are items 1 through 5 by email. If you should have some additional equipment that needs calibration, on our website, the vscdataloggers.com, there is a calibration RMA form. This is going to be used as a packing slip. And so by filling out this information and then requesting some type of services, when we open the box, we'll know where it comes from. We are a accredited Cal Lab under the ISO 17025 compliance. So I'm showing the actual kit that you've got. In the picture that I have on my screen, on the right-hand side over here where my mouse is, this is our shatterproof glycol bottle. It has a safe, biosafe glycol mix with distilled water. If you notice that the probe shaft is in the middle of our bottle, and we have the dimensions of equal surrounding area in here, and the temperature actually is being measured just about where my mouse is. And so the bottle sits in our acrylic stand, and what that does is it's going to hold the bottle in an upright position for proper airflow around it, and also it's going to add additional dampening for oscillations of opening and closing the door. The cable is a 4-foot cable with a gold-plated connection that plugs over here on the left-hand side of our logger. We actually provide a wall mount bracket for you, an installation kit, and a spare battery. I'm going to demonstrate how to install the logger next. So my demonstration here is a common refrigeration unit. I'm going to place my probe approximately somewhere in the middle of my refrigeration unit. Through tests and studies, we know that the top side of a refrigerator is the coldest, because that's where the air enters. And as it falls, the warm air in the refrigerator rises, and somewhere in the middle is going to be an average. So by placing my probe file and my stand somewhere in the middle of my refrigerator, it's not going to be too close to the back, because this would be the coldest area. I'm not going to put it too close to the front, because that's going to be my warmest. So by putting it somewhere in the middle, I'm going to route the cable underneath my grate here, and underneath here I'm going to have probably a 1-inch or 2-inch little teardrop. I'm going to use one of my zip ties in my installation kit to secure the wire. Reason for that is, now as somebody comes in with a tray of vaccines and it bumps it, it's not going to move from this area. If you notice that I've continued routing the cable to the left, to the right, of the refrigeration unit, and I've used a second tie wrap to go ahead and secure it, so I don't have this cable dangling. I can use both the top and bottom shelf. Continue with my installation. My refrigeration unit I have here is a full shelf. You might have a quarter, three-quarter shelf or a half. Looking into the installation kit, you're going to use one of the sticky backs if you have to, and you're going to remove any moisture and oil here, and using one of the sticky backs you're going to press it against the wall, and you're going to use the zip tie to secure it. Continuing with our installation, you're going to route the cable in between the door frame and the gasket. This cable is very, very thin. If you wanted to make the insulation a little bit more secure, you could use some type of a packing tape. And the reason for that is that this little cable could cause a small little speed bump. There could be some small amount of air entering into your office, which you probably couldn't notice. But some of our customers have put a piece of tape here, making the speed bump more smooth and causing the rubber gasket to seal a little bit better. Once I have the cable outside my refrigeration unit, I'm going to put the logger into my wall mounting bracket. I'm going to secure the cable so I know how much distance I have. I could put my logger somewhere it's going to be easy to read and operate. I'm going to make sure it's nice and straight, and I'm going to put it where I would like it to be. Approximately 6 to 8 inches away from my installation, I'm going to use another sticky back, and I'm going to secure the wire. So as I remove my logger to evaluate my storage and handling, by removing the cable, the wire is not going to fall down on the ground and get dirty or broke. So at this point in time, we're going to take a short break and see if we have any questions. Welcome, Jenny. I'm glad you're here. And please, you know, I do appreciate hearing questions from you, so I know that my audience still can hear me. So let's continue with our presentation today. So after we've got our logger installed, we're just going to review some of the operations of our logger. The software is free. Inside your docking station, which is the small interface that you've received, there's a small CD on there. The CD has the latest software from our manufacturer, in case you didn't want to go to our website and download it, which is free. It also is going to have a PowerPoint presentation for today's demonstration, and also a copy of a previous recorded training session I did last year in May. So from the operation of your logger, there's going to be a lot of information that you could be able to use for your storage and handling. First of all, let's discuss the 2 buttons on the logger. Both of these buttons have a dual function. In my presentation today, I'll show you how to use both of them, but just quickly, this bottom button is going to be used to start and stop the recorder, and the top button is going to be able for us to view other statistical information of the min-max of other days that we've recorded. It's also going to leave an inspection mark on your data for you to demonstrate that yes, you were there at 8:35 in the morning for your first inspection, and yes, you were there at 3:45 in the afternoon for your second inspection requirement for your twice-a-day requirements. By holding down the, first of all, the logger, after it has been put into the docking station, when you get the logger from us, it's in a hibernation mode, which means the display is completely blank. So after you've installed your probe vial and you have your logger installed, you're going to bring the logger back to your docking station. You're going to have the software somewhere on your desktop. You're going to open up the software, and by popping the logger into the docking station, it's going to wake up, and it's going to give you some messages possibly that your logger has been reconfigured, which means it's ready to use. The logger has been pre-configured here at Control Solutions. So once you have your logger inside your docking station and it has completed its task, the display is going to say ready. It says I'm ready for another additional recording session. It's going to display the local time and a 24-hour military clock. So if it was 1600, that means 4 o'clock your time, and that the battery is okay. The software will notify you, and also the display on the logger gets updated every time that we put the logger into the docking station. It checks the strength of the battery and will notify us. So that bottom button that we just looked at, we're going to start the starting sequence, and the stopping sequence is exactly the same. So by holding down the bottom button in the ready mode for a 4 to 6 period of time, the starting word is going to flash on and off, almost like a signal light. Starting, starting, starting. And when the starting word becomes solid, this has indicated a completion of the starting sequence. You're going to remove your finger immediately, and it's going to go into a recording mode. So again, my starting is solid. It's going to display the current temperature. Current means this temperature is today, and we have a time and clock, our battery. Some of the data that you can display on your logger, the log tag has the ability to go back up to 30 days in history to let you know what the min-max was, and if there was any alarms, what was the amplitude of being too hot or too cold, and how long it was at that particular temperature. So if we came into our office on a Monday and we saw one of these days down here blacken, it's telling you that you had an alarm condition during that day. So on my display here, I have a time of 12:13. My battery's okay. I'm displaying a current value of today. The last reading that I took, the arrow is going to tell me I was too hot, and I have a 10.5 Celsius. The log tag is going to enable you to have an alarm delay. So if for some reason, if you open the door and you were doing inventory, we're going to give you a grace period before it actually triggers it. So the other days down here says 7 days ago, 19 days ago, 20 days ago, and 25, I had an alarm condition. So in my example here, again, here's today. I was there long enough to trigger my alarm, and I'm at 12:33. So approximately 12 hours later, I'm in the next day. You notice all my days that were highlighted now has shifted one day. So yesterday, 7 to 8, so forth and so on. And if you notice that my current temperature on the new day is back to normal, but the alarm condition is going to be latched. So if you had an alarm during your, if you had an excursion or alarm condition during your recording session, the alarm is going to be displayed on your display, and the only way you can clear it is to download the logger and restart it again. There's no ability to reset the alarm condition with your configuration. So what I'm looking here is that I have pushed the top button in our logger as we looked at our previous display. And that what that top button is going to do is it's going to be used as a review and marked chart. So if I came into my clinic and I pushed the top button, it's going to display the maximum temperature since midnight. So it would be my suggestion that every morning, 8:35, whatever time it is that you do your first inspection, that you review this data. So it's going to give you a kind of a health indication how well your refrigeration unit operates without the daily needs to open and close the door. So at midnight, I pushed the top button once, it's today, and it's going to say that I had a high temperature of 4.5 Celsius. By pushing the button the second time, it's going to scroll back in history another half a day, and it's going to say today, and this was the minimum. So these two values should be pretty much close to the same every day, unless you've changed your inventory volume. So if I came in Tuesday and I saw this, and I came in Wednesday, but let's say that the maximum temperature went up from 4.5 to maybe 7. It's a indication that we might want to do some investigation before we actually have an alarm condition. Now, using that review button, the top button, we can continue by pushing it, and we could go back up to 30 days back in history. So again, I pushed it the third and fourth time. You can see that a day ago, this was my maximum. And it also, since I was a day ago and I was an alarm, it says I was the maximum temperature, I was too hot, and I was at 12.5 degrees, and I was there for 12 hours and 30 seconds. Again, this is just a demonstration. Hopefully you don't have this condition. And by pushing the top button the second time, it shows that I had a minimum. And again, my alarm of this particular demonstration was not at 2, as yours might be, so I don't have a down arrow. And again, using the top button, pushing it the third and fourth time, I can scroll back 2 days ago, which might be Saturday. And continuing pushing the button, I could go back in history up to 30 days. Now, since we have our logger running, we need to stop the logger, because a logger is going to be a device that's going to wake up every 10 minutes, I believe, is your interval sample. It's going to take a sample, so we don't want the logger to take a sample as we're walking back to our PC, because if you should not stop the logger or unplug the sensor, your display will read minus 199 degrees. And again, this is going to take the temperature to an unreasonable value, and it's going to probably go through a couple of alarm conditions. And now on your data, you're going to have an alarm, and you're going to have to explain that you forgot to stop the logger. So with the logger wanting to come back to the docking station, I'm going to hold the bottom button again, just like we did in the starting sequence, continually pushing it down between 4 and 6 seconds. The word stop is going to blink just like the starting. And once it's solid, we're going to stop the logger. Now we can take it back to our PC, and we're not going to have any false data in our collection. So I'm going to open up the question panel one more time. Okay, I don't see any questions. So the battery that's in the logger is going to last between 12 and 14 months. And again, the software is going to indicate that the battery's low, and in the right-hand corner, you're going to have the battery symbol with an X across it. To replace the battery, we use a common watch battery. Each kit has a spare, but if you needed additional batteries, for some reason you lost your other one, the actual part number on the battery is embedded here. So if you took it to Walmart or some other store, here in Oregon, I think Walmart is selling this in a pack of 2 for $2 or $3. So in the back of our logger, this is where my mouse is our calibration sticker. What we're going to do is we're going to very easily get a little dog ear, and then we're going to peel this label off. And when we're done replacing the battery, we're going to put it back on. This is just more of a watertight barrier, so any moisture doesn't get inside the battery compartment. So by using a sharp object, please don't use a pencil. Ballpoint pens have a tendency that the tip will break off, and now you have some type of object inside the logger which could actually damage it, which will not be covered under warranty. So with the cover off, I have a slot here The spare battery will fit into the slot, so you could use it like a screwdriver. And we're going to turn the slot here about an eighth of a turn. It's going to dislodge some ears, and now we're going to have the ability to remove this cover. The battery is being held in here with springs. You're going to have to use the same object. I'm showing a small screwdriver, fingernail file, and so as we dislodge this thing's going to pop out, so be careful that it doesn't go flying across the room. With the battery removed, we're going to replace a new battery and reverse the process by putting the cover back on and the waterproof label. I'm going to demonstrate what the report is going to look like. So log-tag, after you put the logger into the docking station, approximately 6 to 7 or 8 seconds, it's going to download the information. It's going to display the report page that you've asked it to go to. It's going to automatically do other things that you've asked for it to do, which I'll cover next week, but it will also put the logger back into a ready position. So I'm going to display the report tab. In the bottom left-hand corner, I have different tabs down here that I could view different types of data. So the report is going to give me instantaneously here in the upper left-hand corner if I had any alarm conditions during my recording session. And it indicates that I had a high temp alarm. By looking at my data over here in this chart, you can see that my data was higher than my alarm condition. These are my alarm thresholds, these little dotted lines here. I started this logger at my desk for this demonstration, and then I put it into our refrigerator, and I had all this data. On the data form, you notice I have a little red dot. This is where I've taken the top button and I pushed it for a marking. So hopefully in one day I'd see 2 marks. If this was a whole week, I would have 10 little inspection marks. You notice that some of my data is a little bit higher. You can see it's almost repeatable. Those are defrost cycles. So with the alarm delay, if for some reason this value went too high and it was there long enough, I would trigger the alarm. But if I just opened the door and for some reason the compressor didn't come on, that the temperature went just above and back down, it's not going to put it into alarm. But log-tag will give you a detailed information how much time in a cumulative value down here. So continue with our inspection here. We have the actual serial number and the name that you've given it. And here is our configuration that we have a interval of 30 seconds. Again, this is my demonstration. Yours is probably going to be in minutes. And here's my alarm condition. In my recording, it's going to tell me my statistical when I started and stop it. But over here on the right-hand side, it's going to give me some statistical information that my lowest temperature was 40. Now, what I did in my demonstration was I dislodged or removed my cable before stopping it. And again, the chart is going to go to -40. On my display, it read 199. But it also is going to give me a date and time when that occurred. And it also is going to give me my highest temperature, date, and time. So up here it tells me that was my highest. And a average temperature, as most people know, is the average of all the top-bottom peaks. But one thing that log-tag does is it does a statistical MKT. And what this means is it's a means kinetic temperature. So all the peaks and valleys and the length of time is going to give you a value of what possibly the vaccine saw. So this is a number that could be very helpful to decide if you, during this recording. As you have this report to zoom in, you're going to have your mouse and you're going to click the left key, and we're going to draw a box over some data here. Again, my chart that I have here is a PDF, so I can't do that. And as I zoom into my report, all the report will reflect that time period. So if I had a period of time that I needed to zoom in, I could go ahead and draw a box around here, and my whole data will reflect that. So down below, my low alarm and my high alarm is going to give me a total value that I was 8 minutes and 45 seconds out of tolerance, and I had one alarm. Over here, I unplugged the logger, and I was about 15 seconds away from my desk. So this is going to be a value possibly that you could use that during a weekly schedule. And hopefully this number is going to be less than an hour. But you might look at this number and say, hey, how can I make my storage and handling any better? What if I added additional ventilation around my storage? That way you get more airflow, which is going to give you better regulation. And possibly I could add additional water bottles around my or near my inventory also. And so this number might go to a lower number. If this number was to jump up, maybe I left the door open, inventory, I added additional inventory because of an outbreak. There's not enough ventilation, circulation and stuff. So this number here could be something you might want to just gauge how well your refrigeration unit is. Also looking at your min-max each morning. Down below on this report, I have my inspection marks, and it tells me a date and time when they occurred. The next tab is the chart. It's going to give you the header that you've selected. And again, like the three bears, red is too hot, green is okay, and if I was too cold, it's blue. If you needed to have your report in a CSV or data, you could use the data tab, and it will display your data timestamp. And it'll also give you a color, just like our chart, that if the temperature was too hot, it's going to be red, black's okay, and blue, I'm too cold. The summary tab is going to give us kind of a header. It's going to give us the information that we have on the other pages, but it's also going to let us look at when the first inspection mark occurred. And during that inspection, what was our average, and were we too cold or too hot? So when somebody pushed this button, we were there for 8 minutes and 45 seconds. So if this number had exceeded our alarm value, this would actually be the alarm indication on our display. Finishing up our report is the day summary. This is going to have the days of recording. And you can see that this was the last day, but moving down to our first day, I had a temperature recorded value that I was too hot for 8 minutes. In my demonstration that I had for my logic, I exceeded my alarm threshold and I went into an alarm condition. This is going to give me my min-max for each day. So again, if you're doing your morning inspection or you needed just to take a look at what your min-max was for the week, this would be the page to go to, the day summary. If you notice that the second day, I was at 44.4, and the last day, you notice that these numbers are almost identical because most refrigeration units should have a repeatable control offset. You can notice that the last day, as I demonstrated earlier, that I had the sensing wire unplugged and it went to minus 199.9 degrees. At this point in time, this concludes our introduction to the LogTag devices, and I'm going to take additional time to see if we have any questions. Okay, so I have a couple here, and so the first question is, will a copy of this be sent out today? Janelle, that would be correct. The next question that you had was also, are we going to be responsible for replacing these data loggers after 2 years? I don't know what your state has intention. We do have, we probably have sold 24,000 of these. We'll still be in business. With technology changing, it's hard to say. So, Ms. Bond, it looks like your question was for calibration. What we've done here at Control Solutions is we've taken your logger and the probe that you have received, and we have a precision water bath system, several of them, by the way, and we calibrate your logger at 5 Celsius and minus 15. Our accuracy of our water bath is 0.005. The accuracy of the logger that you have is 0.3 Celsius or better. The calibration, each of your boxes came with a certificate of calibration that you need to keep. It is a document that is compliant to our calibration standard, the ISO 17025. So if that's the end of our questions, I would like everybody to have the ability to attend next week's advanced training. At that time, I will go ahead and demonstrate more detail, a live chart of what the log tag report can do. If you have anything to add to our presentation today at a later time, and you wanted to get a hold of me again, please go ahead and contact me at steve@vscdataloggers.com. The storage and handling for the VSC program is our primary business. This is all that we do. We're extremely knowledgeable. I have well-trained staff. We do continuing education, and I appreciate your time today, and I wish everybody a great Friday. So